Hey Zombro fans, Ralston27 back here for another wonderful Zombros episode, joined by my wonderful co-host once again. Matt does not have a webcam. How you doing, Matt?
I'm better now that I don't have the black mold around me. It's going pretty
Fantastic.
well. It's going pretty well. I'm glad to be here in spirit, in voice, even though there's no visuals.
Well, at least we have Space Dog to represent you while you're gone right now visually.
As it should be.
Special guest MC Sports One.
And of course, I'm joined by Johnny J25.
How's it going, everybody? But I don't think anybody wants to hear from me, Reed, because
I don't think so. There's something a little. Who is that? Is that Jason Blundell?
Hey guys, I'm here with you.
Oh my gosh, it's so exciting to have you on. Thank you for coming on the show today, Jason. We have a trillion questions to ask you.
This is on my bucket list. I remember when I kind of saw you when you kind of came over to the event. I was like, I need to get on Zombros. Why won't you invite me on Zombros?
Well, I'm so happy. And again, a big thank you to Ali as well for making this happen, because we wanted to have you on. It's always been a dream to have the freaking creator of zombies on Zombros.
Thank you so
At this point, I feel like this legitimizes the podcast.
Right? Finally. A lifelong journey here.
Either that or we reached a peak. And after this, there's no point in continuing.
First question. We're going to get into it right on. All right,
Okay.
Jason? These are obviously, by the way, for the format for the viewers at home, a lot of this is going to be structured toward asking Jason, and if at any point he feels like asking us questions, he's okay to do that, but he's not obligated to answer any of these either. So the big...
Now you've said that, I'm not going to, but I was going to. But
Well, then
I
you
was
just
just going to sit there quietly.
yeah.
Well, I guess that's the gamble we have, and the viewers can just decide with the eye blinks whether or not we're getting any information here.
I've moved on from eyes now. I'm moving to the eyebrows, so you got to watch the eyebrows.
See, that's
Yeah.
it. In baseball, like when someone's doing a pickoff, you look for elbows. Jason's eyebrows. Got it.
Yeah.
Or maybe
I don't
watch
know
that
anything
lamp in
because
the background. See how
I'm from England, so it's cricket and stuff like that. So
Oh, there we go. Lost reference there. All right. I'm very curious about how it was from your point of view and the studio's perspective at the end of Revelations when there was all this super Easter egg talk. And we were looking for some alternate ending. I'd love to hear your perspective on all that went into that nonsense of the super Easter egg. I was never a believer in it. I didn't like the idea. But I got a lot of crap for being like, it's just premise rules or whatever it might be for the super Easter egg. What was it like?
It reminds me very much of the human condition, which is when confronted with things that we don't always like, we find a way of making something that will put us at peace, won't we? So, like I've talked to you in the past, it was a very deliberate decision about how we were going to end Revelations.
Yeah.
And for people who are kind of confronted with that problem and that existential crisis, if you will, the super Easter egg was then born in the minds of the community. It seemed like a very natural thing to do. So, yes, I was entertained on one level and also felt sorry for everyone on another. But here's the thing: I think it was also the right thing to not do such a thing.
Okay.
It did come up. We did talk about the idea of larger Easter eggs or kind of other things that kind of span the whole kind of map series.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly enough, we actually decided not to do that with the very same mentality, which is the fact that we wanted people to be able to confront the realities of what they saw at the end, rather than kill and give them another diversion or a secondary answer. So, like I've said in the past, right, confronting that and then starting to think about that and work out what your position is on the topic was the goal. So yeah, that was the reason why we didn't do it, and I think that was the reason why people kind of expected there was one, if that helps.
I think before Revelations came out, at one point there was a patch that included in the menu, like a little icon had you completed each Easter egg. I think that led people to think that maybe they're tracking our progress for a super Easter egg. What was then the decision to include that?
Well, because we wanted the idea of like if you completed each one and we gave the kind of gateworm kind of icon on there, and then there's a bonus payoff at the end of Revelations if you've done all those.
Yeah.
But we wanted it just to be a small nod. We didn't want it to be the beginning of a huge kind of monster thing, and that was the idea, which was let's give everyone a nod or an extra kind of bump if they've kind of gone through that process. But we weren't going to. We needed to end with that end IGC in-game cinematic we wanted everyone to kind of confront that moment and deal with that moment. But if you did complete each one, we wanted to give you a little nod to say, yes, well done, you've done all the series.
Fascinating.
It's interesting, like, because when I was hearing all the commentary on the way to Revelations, people were saying, well, listen, if they do anything less than a 30-minute cutscene at the end, I'll be disappointed.
I think you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. There's no way to make a perfect ending. You can't please everyone.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I think it was a perfect ending.
Of course you do.
Reed would tell you otherwise for hours.
When it comes to 30 minutes, they're saying, "Oh my God, you're gonna have to do so much," and I won't bore people with the realities of how long it takes to make in-game cinematics and all that fun stuff. But even if you wanted to say, okay, let's kind of commit that, that wasn't what we were going for at the end. When we talk about intro IGCs and so forth, we say 2.5 minutes or 2 minutes normally. When we got to the end, I actually asked our animation department for actually a shorter time on the outer IGC for Revelations than what they initially proposed. Because what we do is we start off with what's called an animatic, where you essentially block out a scene and represent the information.
Yep.
It was initially a lot longer, and I actually asked for it to be reduced to make it more succinct.
You just made a lot of kids super upset.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. If I'd gone longer, I think there would have been another kind of upset, which was, I think there would have been more to distract you rather than what the Revelation ending does, which is every single line that's spoken in it and shot that's taken is meaningful. And I think if I put more shots and more scenes in, sorry, I'm wobbling with my elbows here. I talk with my hands, if you're not noticing. I think if we put more shots in, I think it would be more confusing. I know people are looking at it and going, well, I'm still confused. I think in retrospect, I think each shot and each phrase will have poignant significance. In the same way that the Origins ending did that as well.
That makes sense. And I feel like a lot of people might be missing it right now, and I was too before we talked at the Zombie Chronicle event. I very much reflect the zombie storyline as a movie or an Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, where it's very much a reflection of comics. I very much see it as how it's the ongoing story of these characters in a universe that's much larger than what we expect. Even the parallels that I now see between the Keepers and the Apothicons that we see within human nature and everything that we're going through is so exciting. What you did in Zombie Chronicles allowed us to finally move forward. And at first I wasn't able, because we barely got to see the timeline when we were first there. But as we've had time to process that, I've really enjoyed this fact that we could kind of put some other things to rest, but finally move forward. And
That was the goal.
Well, that's fantastic then. So how about, speaking of just a real quick one here, blacked out portrait in Kino, if we want to move on here, how do you feel about that?
I feel wonderful about that. How do you feel about that?
It annoys the crap out of us to this day. That, Shangri-La Mountains, any comments about that guy? Just get him out of the way right now. That drives me nuts. What was that tweet about? Like, oh, no, you gotta be kidding me. Okay, 1 second. My headphones just unplugged. No way. This would actually be the perfect time for Jason to tell us about the Shangri-La Mountains now that I can't hear after years and years of paranoia.
Fascinating, Reed.
God dang it.
My mind is blown.
Stop it.
Jason, thank you for that information.
All I want is a no, don't worry about it. It was just some fun within the studio. If it's nothing, then no.
You're never going to hear me say, when am I ever going to say, hey, Reed, don't worry about that. Don't worry about it.
Come, but
Actually, here you go. Reed, here you go. To make yourself feel better. Don't worry about that.
This is just bullshit.
So
I can't.
Well, while Reed touched on the Mystery Man, I want to also touch on real quick the Mystery Man in Der Eisenbach. In the comms room, there's a monitor with a person on it. Any potential relation? No. Silence.
These are great.
I had a feeling.
No, but this is perfect.
John, you're breaking up there, man. You're breaking up.
This is great, but
Never
this
mind.
is wonderful because, this helps us with the foundation of what we've lived through in Zombie Chronicles and all the past maps. So, again, one more thing will float out there. Doesn't have to answer it, but this whole anti-115 in Shangri-La, was that deliberate at all? That ideology out there? That there's this thing called anti-115? Or is that not lore canon?
No comment.
Happy to hear that.
It's so
Eventually, we'll
hot.
crack through. Eventually.
Eventually. Don't worry. We got time. Don't worry about that.
You're gonna wear me down, eh?
It's
Now,
a long show.
it is.
If we
So
run
we'll
out of
see.
time, we will fly to LA to finish this.
So we'll get to something you can talk about, or at least
Sure.
like a little bit more here, is we see there's a deliberate effort from the giant cutscene. We see the snow and the representation of snow, and especially it seems to be fractures as well. We saw that in the trailer in Zombie Chronicles. What was it like to make that trailer in Zombie Chronicles? Because there's really a lot going into that, especially what's floating around and the music.
That was lots of fun. That was
Mhm.
lots of fun. And you know, if you want to hear a bit of kind of development stuff, kind of behind the scenes,
Absolutely.
Love to.
we have kind of different groups who would do our videos. So there's one guy who very specifically works with us with regards to doing the music videos.
Mhm.
It essentially takes free camera and kind of moves it around and kind of cuts sequences together, and then we'll sit down and talk about a narrative we want to achieve, and then he goes and kind of captures that footage. But it's very little kind of bespoke animation that we do. We'll bring things in from other parts of the game to sell ideas, but he's pretty much doing it as a free cam inside the engine.
Mhm.
The Chronicles example was actually the animation department. So although it looks like a free cam movement,
Mhm.
if people out there have knowledge of development, to get that kind of seamless, continuous camera between levels
Mhm.
is actually an animated spline so that it can perfectly drift. And that took a very long time to do. So it's supposed to
Wow.
look effortless. So it's supposed to look like it just was one continuous thing.
Mhm.
But there was a real long time to be able to make that and have the tumble and the move sync perfectly. And then how it kind of goes through the environment took a long time. But that was actually an animation department that did that. And then the guy who normally does our music videos does all the post effect and the kind of transition work on top of
Mhm.
that. So that was really fun to kind of go back in and do a sequence with animation, which, you know, they do the work. Let's say the Shadows of Evil intro, animation department predominantly drives that,
Yeah.
and then you kind of post effects and do stuff on top of it. So that's why people kind of detect there's a kind of different style in the kind of Chronicles IGC than let's say a music video or a marketing piece.
Okay. Wow. That's awesome. That's really cool to see from that back end. I love
Yeah.
hearing about that stuff.
And the great thing about that was it allowed us to consider every single kind of moment. There's no wasted beats. There's no wasted elements. And so when you're doing it, let's say with the animation department, because
Mhm.
on the other side you're dealing with capturing inside the game, and so there's certain other elements, and we play to that a little bit. But when you're doing it purely as an animation sequence, you can control everything. You can control every lighting shot. You can control every kind of model that's there or not there.
Mhm. Of course. Yes.
And it's very easy to just change the camera angle on a spline, which is a little bit different when you're doing a free cam sequence.
Oh yeah.
And it's going to take a little bit of rough with the smooth, and that's fine. But that's why the Chronicles piece and other pieces are very deliberate in what information they're revealing.
So I see, like, especially the color glowing underneath the bed there of the wind staff. Very deliberate. Just to drive people nuts. Look, that's the laugh right there. That is like the evil Jason zombie laugh when he loves teasing us.
Oh man. But here's the thing, it's fascinating to me. I enjoy it. I enjoy it so much watching you guys talk about it, think about it. The incremental increase, because we don't actually send anything out that's usually overtly deliberate to kind of step you along. We'll put the pieces, but we rarely put the connective tissue in. And if you look at the kind of history of zombies and the community's kind of growth and knowledge, they have been putting that tissue together. They talk
Absolutely.
about the definition of genius being able to get from A to C without traveling through B. That's what the community has done. It's able to kind of move through these sequences without us actually giving you the middle bits. And so that's why it's fascinating, because it's this kind of group genius mentality, if you will, and that's what makes me very inspired and makes me look for zombie communities.
Oh, that's so cool. That's a really interesting philosophy to have for all this. All right, we were speaking about some of the behind the scenes stuff, and I'm kind of really curious about what it was like during one of the tougher times, I would imagine, at Treyarch Studios when Tranzit was released. What was the atmosphere like there? And you also talking about right now in the animation, how you're saying there's really, you know, you don't waste anything. Everything's purposeful, just like in the ending of Revelations. I feel very, very strongly about no wasted space in maps. I think that is a great way to measure how well a map is. You don't just walk in a room and it's like, this is just here, so I have another place to connect me from A to B. And Transit was one of the worst perpetrators of that because you just run for 5 minutes at a time. What was it like to make that map, and how do you feel about no wasted space?
So that was a little bit before my time, but I was still at the studio kind of working when that was being made. It's got a really interesting backstory, which probably people may not kind of realize. Its ambition was definitely kind of greater than what the final release was.
Okay.
You know, when it was being proposed, and that was Jimmy was kind of working on that at the time.
Of course.
It had lots of game modes and different versions that you could run. So people that kind of know at the moment is, you know, standard mode, and then there was grief, right?
Yep.
Well, Transit was being constructed. It had like 4 or 5 different entirely different ways of playing it. It was very exciting, and it actually kind of suffered from its ambition in a weird way, because when we'd all test it as a studio and play it, and we'd play all these different modes, and they were all kind of halfway there. So there's one, like, I think it's called like something like Capture the Meat or Chase the Meat or something. It was like this one where there would meat things around the map, and you had to go and get it, and it's like safe zone, and then areas get cordoned off or opened up, and lots of different modes. It was really fun. But all the modes were kind of a quarter halfway there. And at the time, again, Black Ops 2, right? Black Ops 2.
Yep.
Black Ops 1. Black Ops 2.
Well, 1 to 2, yeah.
1 to 2, yeah. It was on the back end of kind of development. In other words, Zombies got the kind of the minimum amount of support in the group. Now, when I say minimum amount of support, you know, you're still talking about, you know, 30 odd guys, you know, which used to be back in the day when I was young. That was team sizes, you know.
Of course.
But you know, for maps of this size and complexity, it's quite a small team. The problem that happened was, as we got closer to the end of development, you know, something that Jimmy faced was that, and he'll be able to speak about this far better than I would, but what happened was there was a call which was like, okay, we can't get all these modes to the kind of standard we want, so we need to make the call to kind of strip them away and switch them off. But that decision was made, unfortunately, a little bit too late. And so what happened is the core experience that got released had a bunch of things where, if that's all they'd focused on, some of those rough edges would have been smoothed out.
Okay.
And so that's the kind of, I'm sure, let's put it this way, you know, if Jimmy was to sit down and look at that, he would probably make a series of strategic changes if he'd had the full development just looking at that map, just with that focus. Because he was doing some really ambitious stuff with the different game modes, and it just ran out of time. That's one of the dangers of development. It's you know, zombie development is very much like sailing a boat while building it at the same time. And one of the problems is you can say, I want to do all these features and these things, and if you attach everything to it, when you realize you can't get there and you have to take it away, suddenly other things then start falling apart because they're all linked. And that was unfortunately some of the properties that Transit inherited, which was there was things that were connected and the focus was going to different places. It got stripped away, and then other things had to get stripped away, and then what you were left with had some, in my opinion, some fundamental challenges, which if you'd given the full time to focus on just that, would have been far smoother.
So was Turned one of those game modes that was originally turned off, but then I guess brought back with DLC 1? Because I think it released with Die Rise.
Yeah. I don't know specifically, actually. That's I'd have to kind of go back and check. I remember it being there, but I couldn't speak specifically to when it was switched on or switched off.
Fascinating. I'm so glad we finally have some kind of way to address, though, what happened with Transit, because there's always rumors through the years of running out of time. That was awesome. Thank you for that for the community.
That's okay. It was. Here's the thing. It was. I'm a big advocate for the map, but here's the thing. I'm a big advocate for the map with what it should have tweaked, because I get the frustrations when people say, oh, I don't like this and don't like that. I think every member of the development team, possibly Jimmy included there, would have said yes, and it was just a condition of the development. And that's, you know, when we develop stuff, we always say people only judge what is in the box or on the shelf. You could have gone through all this pain and suffering and all these other things, but it doesn't matter. It's only what's on the shelf that's judged and viewed. And unfortunately, that was just the condition it found itself in. And I've done the same. Campaign maps and zombie maps. There's been bits where we tried to strive for something and we missed it slightly, or we overshot and then we ended up messing something else up. That's a common occurrence in development, and it's totally fine for a community also to kind of call you on that. It applies to any kind of creative art I've seen, right? I keep on using painter examples, but there is a situation where you have to step away from the painting, right? And if you don't, you can actually ruin it. We have that situation as well, where we overcook something, and you can also undercook something. So they're all very natural and normal things in development.
Well, I feel like the intensity of your development, though, is so much more now, especially since Zombies is on the map. You guys are Call of Duty. That is the top juggernaut in the gaming industry. So it's not just, all right, we made some mistakes and we only piss off a few hundred people, a few thousand people. It's like millions of people are going to tell you their thoughts. And it's the good and the bad, though, because there's only so much of that you can hear before you're like, all right, I get it. We're all, all these people. We don't get to see the blood, sweat, and tears of all the developers back there, the people that come and go, and just like, these are real people. We're making a game, all right, guy?
Well, there's an old phrase that I think comes from the movie industry that's been co-opted into the games industry, but pain is temporary, games are forever.
You're not wrong.
But here's the thing: it does hurt, right? If you put it, there's no such thing as a half development. Everyone here, there's a huge team of 300 odd people, and they put their heart and soul into it. I've said oftentimes, I don't do anything. I don't do anything. There is, outside of this room, 300 very skilled men and women who put their life and soul into making these games possible. And sure, it does have an effect. One of the reasons why I stand up in front and put my face on things is I'm okay to take the bullets. You can take a shot at me. That's fine. Those guys and girls who work very hard to make this all possible, that's who deserves all the credit. And if you have any hating, send that my way.
Oh, look at that! So you must have got a lot about the M1911 then this past week.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Jesus.
Nice segue. Let me throw that one in.
Yep.
It just wasn't ready.
I said that last week or 2 weeks ago.
Here's the thing: as I'm sitting there and looking at it, I'm like, okay, I get it, but it wasn't ready. And the problem is that so just before, and again, I feel like I'm going a bit techie here, so please forgive me, but hopefully it'll give some context behind what goes on. But you have to go into submission with your first parties. So that's your Sonys and your Microsofts, right? Which means there's a lead time when you submit your product to then get approved, and then it kind of goes live. And as such, if something's not ready at the point when you submit, then it doesn't go in. But here's the other thing. If that's that date, this is your submission date, you've also got a QA before you send it in, because you can fail submission, right? So that means everything that has to be in here. Even if you submit here, and even though it comes out here, it's got to be in there. And if a weapon is not in and tested, because you're going to put it in a magic box, or you're going to put it as a starting pistol, you can do anything like that, you have to go through all the permutations and check that everything's okay. And that's not just the perk bottles, that's not just the gobble gums, that's everything about it. Right? Yep. It's physicality, it's animations. Okay, what imprint does that have on the memory? All this other fun stuff. All has to go through every single version and go back against every map in the season, and everything that's there has to be checked. You add Chronicles on top of that. You've now got so many maps you have to test, right? That every time you put any one thing in, so it came out. We're like, we'd have to test it against all this stuff, and it wasn't ready in time. So it actually came out during that testing phase. And if you threw it in, you'd have to reset it, and then you'd have to put your submission date out, and then it pushed back your release date as well.
So was it planned to be a part of Zombie Chronicles in the beginning, or was this more like a later idea?
So we knew it was being developed, right? Because we obviously we have central groups that do weapons and so forth, so we knew it being developed, but it was coming on late. So we couldn't take it. Even if we wanted to take it, we couldn't take it. But that's why I normally don't ask. We have John from communications who does our Twitter, and I said, okay, just put a tweet out. I normally don't do that, but I said let's put a tweet out and just recognize it, and the AK as well, coming as well. But that has to kind of go in what we call a TU. It's called a title update. Okay. They kind of come in afterwards, and so that's going to come in after the Xbox release. So Xbox release will happen 16th. And then you'll then get a TU, and then those two things will go. Because again, we had to test everything, make sure everything was kind of good, make sure that because you can put what we've done this before, you put a weapon in the box and suddenly we bust all the memory limits because we run right to the limit. So every time you add a bit of content, you have very little kind of memory buffer. So you have to check it and make sure everything's kind of good. Because you can have certain situations where you put something in, and because memory is a dynamic thing, once it's in, it then busts it in this specific time when people do these specific things, and you'd never know. That's why we have to have high round testing. Sorry, this is all very geeky and techy.
No, this is beautiful. This is absolutely. Oh my God, you're talking. He's a CS major. I used to be an engineer. All right, you're talking the guys that love this stuff.
Well, I'm sorry if I'm patronizing them and talking down to you.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
Okay.
Oh, that's absolutely fabulous. Go ahead, John.
I was just wondering though, when you're making a map and the decision making of what to put in and what not to put in, how does that go around the office? Is there a group of people that decide which weapons will be where or which perks will be where? How does that go down?
So there's different kind of systems. So I'm a big believer in two strategies. One is from a top-down mentality, we like to define the box. I've worked in both systems. One where you work very much a down-up system. The thing that I found works best is top-down defining the box and the area, the play space, and then a bottom-up for filling in content, and then a top-down for correcting back for narrative and mechanical consistency. God, that sounded like a that sounded like a mouthful, didn't it?
That was totally project management right there.
Okay. And I'm selling my new book, Project Management. Yeah, exactly. Just empty blank pages inside. But what it allows that to do is it means that you can be consistent and have long-term kind of strategy and mentality. It also allows you to kind of rein in your development cost and investment, but it also then makes sure that your floor staff are invested and passionate. That's where you see a lot of these kind of Easter eggs and very kind of, I think I mentioned in a couple of interviews, you want to see soul and kind of energy and love and passion. And I'm a true believer in that it kind of comes through.
Yeah. And
you only get that if it comes from the floor up. So by defining the box, you can make sure there's consistency and you can move forward, but you also give them space so that the designers and scripters, the builders and artists can all kind of express their own kind of passion through it. And then you top down correct the bits that are going outside the lines. So that's, things like, Golden Spork in Mob, right? That was a floor generated. This would be cool, and they put it together with the bits and bobs, and we didn't actually even polish it up, right? It was just we just let them do it all programmatically, script wise, and that had a certain charm to it. I like that, we could have made it all fancy and done an animated spoon. It was like, no, it was cool the fact that it looks like a developer just snuck it in under the radar, and they did, but it all goes through approvals, and we all check it, and we say, yeah, we like that vibe. Like the floating rock in Derize and Drac or whatever, the lifting up, the sinking down.
Oh, yeah, yep.
We'll do stuff, and we'll sometimes we say, that would really like the arrows in, let's say, Derize and Drac, the skeleton. We want that to be a very custom animation. We want that to kind of look polished in a certain way because we're telling a narrative. But you have another one, you say, no, just script animate that up. So the decision of how you present it as well leaves gamers with different feelings. There's something very kind of voyeuristic about feeling like the scripter kind of put it in and you're just finding it and it's cool.
Yeah.
And so we try to have a little blend of, you're sneaking a peek. There's something about an Easter egg. You don't want the Easter egg to feel all polished and perfect all the time. Sometimes you want it to feel a bit raw and like, I found something no one else has found, and it feels like some programmer or scripter just threw it in.
Absolutely.
That's also part of the charm, I feel.
Absolutely. That is like the origin of all the Easter eggs in the original maps, like World at War and the stuff you'd see. You'd just be like the brick in Derice where it just kind of went down. And you're like, what now?
Yeah.
The Golden Spork is perfect because it's in a way very random, but then you can also see how in some ways it fits perfectly with part of what zombies is and what its Easter eggs is, and also with the setting too. Yeah,
I'm showing you behind the curtain now, but even our kind of dodgy developer things actually are now kind of curated. But we don't want to make everything so polished that we kind of lose that aspect of it. So we actually make sure that we have a kind of blend of the two styles.
Well, on topic there about your process to create all these things, do you want to talk about what you can? Because we don't want to be spoiled by telling us like the simple facts. Like you could tell us all the Easter eggs, that doesn't help us. But how about the creative process of crafting an Easter egg quest? What is that like? We don't want the stuff that's going to ruin it, but what's it like as a studio to put together these puzzles that millions of people are trying to solve, or hundreds of thousands?
It's wonderful, right? So the exciting thing is trying to blend different styles. And actually, when you're doing an Easter egg, because anything's possible. You know, if
Okay.
I turn to my scripting and engineering team, there's very few things I could say that they couldn't say, well, that'll cost this amount of months to do, but we can do it, right? There's
Hmm.
very few things that they're not going to say are possible. But what you're trying to do is make something that takes you on a journey of sometimes emotion and sometimes intellectual.
Okay.
So in the same way that a chef would, when you have a good meal and a good setup, it's about complementing and moving you through taste and flavor.
Okay.
You're trying to do the same thing with Easter eggs. So you're trying to at times have a sharp moment and then have a soft moment, and then at times you want to see something that looks beautiful, and other times you want to feel something that feels a bit more raw. And that's why, to take the analogy far too far, you don't want any two dishes to be the same, right? You want it to have a
Hmm.
different kind of cadence and vibe to it. And so that would be the kind of broad mentality that you
Okay.
kind of take with each one of these ones. And sometimes they're short, sometimes they're frustrating, sometimes you want a bit of frustration and then a nice payoff or a nice kind of like you might want to do something intense that's kind of more numeric or mathematical, and then you want something that's more physical and movement based, shooting based, or something like that. So
Of course.
you're trying to kind of combine the different skills and faculties of the player to entice them in different ways. I know I've just spoken massive generalities there, but
But
maybe
that's a fair thing to do because that even like I had another question here is to introduce a gobblegum into a main quest Easter egg is a very different decision where players just simply can't complete it if they don't have the gobblegum enabled. Take
yeah,
us through that decision making process.
yeah. So well, one of the first kind of decisions there was okay, we've not even entertained this, right?
Hmm.
And we said, okay, well, what happens if we did? What happens if we did? What would it take? What would we do? Well, first of all, it was like, let's make sure it's part of the standard set of gobblegums. So it's not connected to MTX in any way.
Yep.
Let's make sure it's in the standard default set. But then it was like, okay, let's do something where there's that kind of leap of imagination and a leap of stepping outside yourself or stepping out of the normal systems of the game to be able to solve the problem. You know, I think very much of, to give an example, the Metal Gear Solid back on the PS1, you have to unplug the controller and plug it in at the port
Yes. Yes.
to defeat Psycho Mantis, right?
Yes.
Um, just doing that to plug our dynamic theme, by the way. But yeah, that takes you to take a moment to kind of step back.
Hmm.
And again, that can cause frustration for some and
Hmm.
enjoyment for others. But it was, let's give it a try. Let's see what that does.
Hmm.
Again, it's never out of a desire to be nasty or trip people up. It's about what does that do? You know, how does that make people feel? And then that educates us on, like let's imagine like we put that in and it's universally hated. Everyone says we hate this.
Hmm.
Then you can kind of gauge, okay, how much hate is there on this? Was that a hate? Was that a disgust? Where did we go there?
Hmm.
Can that idea be coupled with another idea? I think I talked in one of the interviews about I love taking something that's unpopular or is less trendy or kind of cool, and then going, well, what happens if I change this? What would you think about that?
Hmm.
I always like kind of taking something, especially if people have a reaction to it, and then saying, what happens if I do that to it? What would that do? Now, obviously, I don't beat a dead horse, but I'll try and play with something a little bit and see if just changing some of the variables makes it more palatable. Because you'd be amazed by, I'm sure you'd probably have better knowledge than I would, which is you could probably give me an example of something that's on one map and
Hmm.
the community university loves. And you could point to another thing on another map, and it's exactly the same mechanic, but in a different setting or a different setup,
Hmm.
and they love it.
Widow's Wine, I'll give you that right there. Shadows of Evil makes sense. On Moon, blast the windows out, pisses everybody off.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I was pretty pissed at your Moon Easter egg the other day when they just blasted. And I'm like, it was Widow's Wine, really? Same with
Yeah, well,
DE.
You
Makes
get
it
too
twice
close
about-
to your crawler, your last zombie, and then boom.
Makes you think twice about that perkaholic angle.
Oh, it does. It
Oh,
does.
I've stopped running Perkaholics.
Yeah, I got it
sometimes when I don't
randomly
want
though. Twice in a row, I got it randomly. I was
That's
just
why
like,
I run Unquenchable. That's the new move.
yeah.
And
Because you don't
again,
need every perk, you only need some of them.
those decisions are very deliberate as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes taking something that's very kind of powerful and is universally loved, and then people
Mhm.
fall into a rut or a kind of system of it, and then putting a negative consequence there's a downside to that as well.
I found Widow's Wine in like tighter training spots that maybe are faster for getting to high rounds isn't very good because that'll free some of the zombies. You want them always moving, so it's perfect in maybe Shadows of Evil, which is a little bit more open. But maybe you're training in like Tunnel 11 on Moon, which is really fast, but not with Widow's Wine.
I mean, here's the thing, and something you'll see through Chronicles, and again, you probably can speak in better definition than I can, but some of the earlier maps would deliberately set out to punish a player. So the Magic Box, for example, would have more kind of negative weapons in it, and some of the maps were out and out trying to screw you. We have standardized door widths, that when a builder builds something, it's always at a certain height, and there's a certain kind of ledge height and so forth. Some of the earlier maps, we actually deliberately broke standards, so you think you can get through something, and then it trips you up.
You guys are the worst.
This is like troll art, right?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, right? Those early maps had a lot more of that very deliberate, I'm going to catch you out. The map is actively trying to get you. Later on, what we're doing is it's less about the map is actively trying to get you, and it's more the fact that you will get yourself into trouble. And so that was a very deliberate decision that we took. Another kind of comment to make there is going into, let's say, Black Ops 3 and its DLC season.
Yeah.
We've had, years and years worth of zombie fans. We've got this hardcore base, and as I've said in the past, it keeps growing and growing. We also wanted to have something where there was maps that would be approachable for newcomers as well. People very rightly call out that there's gummulgums that are very OP. It's true.
Yep.
It allows kind of people who are kind of coming in to kind of get onto there. But the guys who are more confident, and you guys, running around and doing all your training and so forth, there's also mechanics in there that if you get a bit cocksure will actually trip you up as well. But it's less about the environment actively going after kind of tripping you up, and it's more about your confidence and your skill causing the problem.
Interesting. Do you think that takes away from the life of the map, though? Like, that almost takes a personality. Like, Shangri-La has that personality. Like, you're also fighting the map, where otherwise they might blend in, where just you fighting yourself.
Well, we got into this debate about Die Rise. I love Die Rise.
We're not talking about Die Rise.
We got into a long.
We're not doing Die Rise this week.
I like how Die Rise sometimes forces you to play differently because you can't go back.
Right.
But then Reed isn't a big fan because he doesn't like waiting for the elevators. I think to me that made the map more playable, but for him maybe turned him off.
Here's the thing. So I would say that the older mentality is more divisive. So it splits your audience. There, you mentioned Die Rise, or you mentioned, you can mention Transit, or you mention some of those early maps, and you have great lovers and great haters of those experiences. By going and saying, okay, I'm not going to have the map screw with you as much, you're making it more welcome to others, but the downside is you have a shorter life to the map. So it's a trade-off in terms of if you decide to say, okay, I'm gonna penalize. Already, I then bifurcate my audience.
Right.
But then I get a longer line on those. But these guys will never play it, so then I'm reducing the kind of numbers down. If I make it easier, by that's a relative term. But if I say I'm not going to have the map deliberately trying to trip you up all the time, you can have a shorter life, but more people can play it. And more people playing it is also allowing more conversation and more attachment to it as well.
That makes sense.
That means that you're moving the audience and growing the community bigger. So that's the kind of trade-off. And then every so often, we'll put little things in. So we won't do it so overtly, but we'll put little things in every so often that are reminiscent of the old style.
Of course.
But the predominant desire is one of more about you being the reason why you trip up, and less about Treyarch tripping you up.
I think it also breeds a better community too, instead of yelling at you guys all the time for that type of stuff.
It'll be a lot less hostile.
We could put a map in. I could go back to the old style. It's a very deliberate choice. We could put a map in that go back to the old style, and I'd have absolute people who loved it and people who hated it. Mob Origins. There's a little bit of that in each one of those.
Yeah, of course.
And I could actually go through each one of the DLC season for Black Ops 3, and I could show you little bits in there as well. But we definitely toned it down more to try that out and see what that looked like.
You might have toned it down, but the mud in Origins has definitely been toned down.
Well, maybe you should check after the last patch.
Oh, damn. Oh, that actually reminds me.
And maybe check the water in
Shino.
What about the lines and origins? What about that?
Yeah, there was a bunch of VO lines that kind of got snuck into the pack that you had to just patch out. And
Kill me.
I was like, come on. That's why we also did it like in 2 weeks essentially after release. We're like,
yeah,
that's quite an investment to do such a fast turnaround on a fix, but it's like, oh, we got to take that out quickly.
Because there's a lot we'll run with. So you'll probably dodge, but is Ultimus the 1.0 crew in Zombie Chronicles?
Silence.
That's what I thought.
You can hear the crickets.
Yeah, all right. I just feeling it out. All right.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's fine by me. On a lighter topic, ever thought about doing Atlantis map? Ever? You know, going to the good old Atlantis?
Yeah.
Was that ever like tossed around in the past for like instead of a DLC for maybe blowing up Earth and pissing off half the community that way, narratively?
And we've entertained the kind of Atlantis thing, because we just love the idea of the kind of water and the kind of rising city and all this kind of fun stuff. Yeah, we have.
Okay, fair enough. We heard a little playing with Shadows of Evil. John was telling me about that. How that was almost like. You want to take it from there, John? Like the reflection in shadows.
The reflection of the shadow.
How it reflects in Shadows of Evil.
Like shadows in game. No, well, the idea behind Atlantis.
How do you talk about my shadow buffer?
The idea behind Atlantis is that it was a city that fell into greed and then was punished by the gods, and then sank in for that reason. And then Shadows of Evil, of course, is a city with a bunch of sinners. And then there's the missing city lights,
look at that
as
smile.
well as the movie theater poster. I know that's a parallel, but it could also be other things too.
It could, yeah.
Fantastic.
It's weird having this conversation
right?
with Jason.
I know, it's like we can talk.
About this.
Yeah,
like Reed and I have this conversation. We're like, well, this is a theory, but then knowing that you were listening, and it's like you know whether or not I'm full of shit or if I'm on.
I love it.
But you won't say.
That's the beauty of it.
I think that's a wonderful thing, right? That's
it's so weird, but I love it.
That's the spirit of it, and that's why I enjoy listening to you guys watching these kind of conversations. It's there's kind of two groups, and actually there's a bit where it kind of coincides as well. There's guys who are just purely on the gameplay and the mechanics and the physicality of it. There's the story guys, and there's the kind of intersection of the two who love playing it and understanding the story of it. And hopefully we're doing a better job of trying to kind of marry the two. It's sometimes it's like, well, Jason's just care about story. I love storytelling. That's a very important drive for me. I can't deny the other part of me, which is a game maker. I love making games, the mechanics and the playing part. Because one without the other for me, it would be unsatisfactory, right? So trying to marry the two is a continual struggle, right? Because you want to be able to tell a story, move a narrative forward, and then also provide great gameplay. And I think for the maps that have resonated best with the community, it's when we get that balance right.
Absolutely. I would agree with that. I think DE, as one of my personal favorites, it finally kicked Doris off the #1 list for me after all these years. Actually, quick fun story about that. The first time I went to Treyarch for that Omaze event, and they were asking us about our favorite maps. You weren't there, but some of the other developers were. And everyone's saying all these more recent maps. And I go, Doris World at War by far. Something about it, I can't let go. There's just something so magical. And I could just see like the life in the developer's face like fade a bit. Like, you don't think we've made a better map in like 8 years? Are you shitting me right now? And of course...
Here's the thing. I think it's, I think that's wonderful. I mean, I see stuff out there where people, Jimmy maps, Jason maps. Here's the thing. It does not matter. If you find a map that resonates with you and works with you, then from my point of view, fantastic. We've got another fan and we love that. And I love hearing then those aspects that hearing how they talk about it and what resonates with them, because that's interesting to me as well. That's some of the most important feedback, and that's stuff I'm actually interested in.
Well, hell, let's share that stuff right now. I think Matt, John, and I could all share some stuff, something that has resonated with your favorite maps. Matt, do you want to say something for the first time in like an hour?
I'm here. I'm just getting so much information right now that it's just I'm just listening. I like listening because you guys have so much that's opening my eyes that I've never seen or heard before. It's like, what is
Hey,
going
Matt,
on?
I've got one for Matt, even though we
Okay.
can't. Can we insert some sort of kind of bogus image over Matt for this?
Oh, we got Space Dog there at the moment, I think.
Oh, have we? Okay.
Yes.
So do you like Space Dog?
Yes, I am very, very grateful for finally getting, after several years, getting hated on by some people for the Space Dog myth that has come true. I appreciate that.
Do you want me to give you an exclusive?
An exclusive?
Uh-oh.
What do you mean by that?
Uh-oh.
You've not found it all yet.
Oh!
What?
Oh! Oh, no!
And let the hunt begin.
What?
Oh no, this
Oh!
has changed the game for me. Now,
We might as well just
you
delay
took
this
the
upload
next
until
several
we figure
months
out-
of my life. And, yeah, you should get back on that, Matt.
What?
Yeah.
Oh,
goddamn.
You know,
Oh,
I say that I don't watch the community very closely.
yeah.
I've had one of my guys kind of scouring to see if certain things have been found yet.
Uh-huh.
There's nothing. So
Son of a bitch.
Ooh.
Are we gonna have like a
Well,
DE
while we're-
wolf
while
with
we're
a
on-
helmet? Go ahead.
While we're on-
work to do, Matt. Come on.
Say it again. You broke up there.
You've got work to do. Pull your finger out. Come on.
Man. Oh man. Oh wait a minute. No. So
Unbelievable.
exclusive, huh? I just want to get the words right here. Exclusive. Haven't found it all yet. Okay.
You haven't found it all yet. Quote.
Well, while we're on the topic of things we haven't found,
Yeah.
there's a number of ciphers in Revelations that we've yet to crack. I think we've got 2 of the 9, or I forget how many exactly there are. What's your opinion on that? How do you feel about us not diving into that? Are you disappointed, or
I know you.
or are you now trying to work that into new ways and maybe?
No, I'm patient. I've demonstrated I can wait 6-8 years if anything.
This guy. Unbelievable.
I can't believe it just happened. What?
Right? You're just destroyed there, Matt. That's unbelievable.
The only time I get to chime in, it's like, yeah, you haven't found shit yet.
Yeah, just like so. Back, being quiet now, Matt. But a big compliment I do have to give. I mean, we should talk about some of the positive feedback here. Is the Easter eggs you have put in Zombie Chronicles with the lullaby Easter eggs on every map. I do appreciate the fact that you want. For what you were trying to do with Zombie Chronicles, you didn't want to redo all the Easter egg endings and make some kind of crazy alternate stuff, but you had this very tasteful addition to add more to the story in some way, but just a fun, you get a reward, a max ammo. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you
And
for putting that in.
That's predominantly the sound department as well. Again, that's you make the box and the different kind of groups adding to it. The sound department going all the way back to the very beginning has been a big kind of player, which is why sound and music is so synonymous with the zombie experience. And something that we kind of treasure very dearly. So those guys are still kind of putting those things in because they script and they do the sound and they do all that fun stuff. So yeah, I thought it was really, really well done.
That's awesome. Now, I do want to get back to because you wanted to know about some of our favorite maps and why they stuck out to us. If Matt and John can start thinking about some of the features of their favorite maps, I can go on a whole tangent here to start at least for Derice and Der Eisendrache, why those maps stuck with me so passionately through the years. Derice in particular is because you introduced Pack-a-Punch for that first time, but the amount of hours of the clock, hearing that ticking constantly, and the constant wonder of if we overload the teleporters, will that do something to the clock? There was always that mystery constantly. There was so much lore, but it wasn't in your face, sort of like Origins and even Revelations to agree when we have announcers bombarding you with quotes. It's a tough balance. That's a tough balance, but there was something to that magic of the map where the weapon selection, the way the gun sounds, the interaction, the grittiness of World at War Derice, it's always sticks with me. I still play it to this day. But
and you know what? Those were very controversial designs at the time. The teleporters specifically were very controversial. We had very kind of sleepless nights talking about that one, and thinking about that one. Same with the Pack-a-Punch machine. That's because Beast was my first map kind of coming in, and there was a lot of conversation, which was, were we going too far? Were we going too far on this stuff? The idea of it being essentially the Treyarch symbol, right? The two kind of teleporter things and the kind of center, the idea, and then the linking of the pads and the Pack-a-Punch being the final reveal. We didn't know. We thought we might be going too far on it. We thought we might be, and then we're putting in some more overt storytelling. It's the first time we really started to overtly storytell, and that was just me, doing the thing I like to do, right? So. But it was really concerning because I was really worried that I was like, a lot of people like this mode and I'm about to destroy it. So I was very happy the fact that people enjoyed the map.
It's one of the most beloved maps ever in the community, and it's that leap of faith. Even though the remakes with the Giant and the stuff for the remasters we've seen, there's still something to me about World at War Reese that is just probably the nostalgia plays a massive role in it as well.
And the guys who did that are also still part of the kind of core zombie team as well.
Really?
The guys who did the original Reese are still part of it. So
that's fantastic.
And I think I mentioned that you were one of the other guys I mentioned, which was the guys who predominantly remade the Giant as well were the guys who made the Reese in the first place. It was lovely
because that's like their baby.
Well, I go into the production office, and the producer who's assigned to that map, so doing the Giant, was the producer I had when we first made the Reese, when we were younger and I had more of a hairline. That was it was the same producer, and it was really kind of strange for both of us to kind of see it kind of coming out of the ashes again, with all the kind of next gen stuff. It was eerie and weird. You get very few opportunities in your career to kind of see that, and it's very special.
Well, that's fascinating. I'm going to put another idea in your head, too, by the way. You're scared about taking risks like back then, and even now it's still scary trailblazing. Like, with such a big following, Pack-a-Punch Fusion, just putting it out there. Pack-a-Punch Fury, putting those ideas out there. Because there's something to be said about going from Shi No Numa to Darius, instead of having the limited number of guns in the box, whatever it might have been, 13 or 24, whatever was in the box, all of a sudden you now just doubled your gameplay. I know people for years have been talking about Fusion and all that stuff, and it's probably very hard with the hardware. So I can completely understand the limitations of doubling the weapons or tripling the weapons, but that changes the game in such a way that is, I think, could be exciting in the future.
Weapons is a very interesting thing, as is perks. Because there's quite a large investment in making unique weapons and then putting them into a map because you have a memory limit and so forth. And even though in the world now where we stream most of the things and don't have it all static in memory, which we used to have, there's still an investment in that. And so the choice of weapons, the choice of kind of perks onto a map or lack thereof is a decision about what do you want to do, how do you want to kind of move the shell game, right? Because you're a finite resource. And that really is the game of game development, which is you've got a finite amount of something. What is your big star of this moment? And then give enough backing to that thing for it to work. You can't take everything.
Right.
That was always the motivating. If you look back to the old maps and you say, okay, why did they put those perks on and not put those perks on? Interestingly enough, funnily enough, to drop a bit of zombie knowledge on you.
Oh, please.
When we inserted the Wonder Fizz machine for Origins, the reason why we did that is it's cheap for us to put the effect in because it's old code. It's more expensive to put the machine in. So we said in Origins, okay, we want all these perks, which are really interesting, but we can't put all the perk machines in because we blow our budget. Let's invent one machine that hands out all the perk buttons because that's just a texture swap.
Right.
So is this then where a similar idea for maybe the Gobblegums came in, where it allows you to run with all sorts of abilities without putting machines in again?
Yeah, because you couldn't, like each time you put one of those machines in, first of all, I mean, again, this is still very boring at a certain level, but I'm sorry.
Please.
But like, if I put a machine in it, then you're doing certain things with the streamer, because that's a high, you want the high MIP to kind of hit in, so you have what you call force the streamer to make sure the high MIP hits. And you have challenges with making sure everything's like loading and streaming in and all that stuff. You've got obviously the investment of making the thing, and then you've got a memory budget putting the thing in as well. And it's not like these are massively expensive, but they all do add up. And in the past, we'll say, okay, we want to, like Origins, right? We want to have these massive robots. We want to have these large landscapes. Origins had a whole other village that it actually had originally. We actually cut out. When you go to the church, there was a village on the other side of the church, like a whole new village was on the other side of that.
Wow.
And so then it was like, okay, let's lose that. And then we said, we're still over budget. We're like, okay, let's lose the perk machines and put the Wonder Fizz machine in. Okay, now just about in the realm. That's a process of going from block out to alpha to beta. You kind of work through these phases and kind of scale back and control, and then you go, excellent. Have we destroyed the gameplay and the decision we made? No, okay, still working. Okay, great. Because you never know, right? When you start inserting elements in and try and make those risks, you can't really. It's not like a shopping list where you can say we've got 2 of them and 3 of them, and that's great because there's so many elements kind of playing with each other. It's the streamer, it's the CPU, it's the GPU, it's your memory. All those things have to be kind of married, and you only know once you start throwing it down.
Is the hardware really holding you back right now? I'm sorry, John.
Sorry?
Is the hardware really holding you back right now? Are you guys very limited by where you are in where the generation is in consoles?
think of it this way: hardware always holds you back. It's not about this generation or the last generation or the generation before that. Developers' jobs are to get to the very edge of it and then complain about it.
For years. Awesome.
Right? It's always been the case. As long as I've been in the games industry, our job is to fill the whole thing up
Yep.
and then complain about it. I mean, I think it was like Black Ops 1. I think we had like 1K of free space on the disc at the end of it.
Wow.
You know, we continuously flirt on just being over memory all the time. You know? I mean, the reason why we have the best engineers and the best designers, you know, at Treyarch is you want the most cutting edge kind of techniques and mentality going on, because that's how you get every ounce out of it. There's a reason why, you know, back in the olden days, everything was written in assembler in games, because you just needed every ounce from it, right?
Damn.
And it's still the same today, right? You'll always want more GPU, you always want more CPU, we always want more memory. You know, you always want the streamer to be faster.
Of course,
you know,
of course.
all the time.
Oh.
So if there's always a bit of a battle for like budgeting your memory, what's going on then with places in the map that the player doesn't really see or doesn't ever see? Like, I know the community kind of went nuts a little when some people noticed that like there's a whole like level built under the stage in Kino, like support beams and stuff like that. What's going on there where I guess nobody ever sees it, so there doesn't really have a need for it to be there, but it is also a nice extra detail.
There's so you have kind of culling algorithms that automatically kind of dismiss large sections if they're not in the viewing frustrum, right? So there's automatic kind of processing that kind of rejects things, and then you're not paying for it in one way. A lot of times when we put things under the map or, you know, in outside the view space, is because we need it for something else, to either prime something or to be used in an indirect fashion. So it all has function in some way. What started off as being a very design mentality, then we knew that people were kind of flipping out and having a look, and we put in little flares and flourishes, which we knew then could be dismissed and so wasn't paying against our budget. But the primary reason is normally a development reason. And then we know there's certain kind of parts of the community who will then go and look at those things. But its first job was to actually make the map work. You know, you might prime something or get a texture loaded or do something, but you don't want it in the place, you know, there's things, right?
Well, actually, but you've definitely minimized that over the years. You guys used to, especially because when you were budging it, you would have all the stuff inside the map preloaded in. As soon as you load on the map, the Easter eggs are there. Now you very much, everything, as soon as it's needed, now it's in the game. Otherwise, because of theater mode issues and stuff like that, people can figure out where these things are, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's a boss fight with Takio.
Well, that was the reason why we had to do all the outro IGCs using the in-game engine, no longer movies, right? I was very upset when they cracked open the package and took out the ending of Origins before they'd actually completed the Easter egg, and that taught me a very valuable lesson, which was not doing that again. So. So that's why all the outro IGCs are now in-game engine, because it takes a lot more effort to kind of hack that data out, reconstruct it, and then play back that scene again. So there are techniques and things that we're doing going forward to make that more challenging.
Good. That's fantastic to hear. Oh, God, there's so many wonderful things. Here's some more you can dodge. What's up with the 115 color changes? Something weird there.
I've already tried.
Yeah, I know. We're just going to see it again. Okay, that's fine. Well, okay, but one thing, on Black Ops 1, when you came back to Area 51, you went in the back right-hand corner, you could see Earth. Was that a skybox glitch, or was that now you're going to pretend to be intentional? Because it's fixed in Zombie Chronicles. When you go back there, you don't see Earth at all. I still have the video unlisted. I actually sent it to one of your developers, and they're like, no, we patched that. And I was like, you didn't.
I think you do, Reed, because I saw a video yesterday where somebody got to Area 51 as the rockets were going off, and you could see the rockets hit the Earth.
No. Black Ops 1. Go back to Black Ops 1.
No, I know it's in Black Ops 1, but I think you were saying it's fixed in Chronicles.
Oh, is it not fixed in Chronicles? I was there.
Fix is a relative term.
I looked in Chronicles.
I saw a video yesterday.
Son of a
where
bitch.
somebody was in Area 51. Happening, and you can see the Earth in the sky. I don't know.
I did the Easter egg like 3 days ago. I didn't see it.
I just saw a video.
Whatever. I like the nuke, by the way. The nuke going off, fantastic. That got me really excited. I love that. Oh.
I was curious though. So, Jason, I know you said you started with, I guess, coding and programming.
Mm-hmm.
What has kind of your journey been like to start as, I guess, a programmer and then to work your way into, like, I guess, the head of campaign and then become a storyteller and then zombies? Like, what was that journey like? You can delve into a little bit more of yourself.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's a
please.
big question. I know.
Well, the short version is this is the short version. I started off and all I wanted to be was an animator when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was like 7 or 8, I just wanted to be an animator and draw cartoons. And I spent all the time pausing the VCR, putting paper on the screen, and tracing it, and then doing that kind of stuff, right? And my uncle was an accountant, and he used to come over and teach my brother programming. My brother was 4 years older. And I was like, "Oh, could you teach me programming, please?" And he's like, "No, you're too young to learn programming." So all I did was spend all my time then learning programming at that point. And I was fascinated by it. It was, I'm up in the north of England where it rains all the time. There's no point going outside. And so when you kind of go into programming, it was like this world of knowledge and this expanse. And I was fascinated by that, right? So I would keep on, working on the coding, and I was obsessing about the games industry. And I then, worked for a couple of companies and done projects and been a coder. And very quickly I realized that I was getting frustrated with, back in the day, there wasn't really a concept of production. Mm-hmm. Back in the early days of games, essentially the lead programmer was like the head of production, if you will. And so to be in programming allowed you to have the most influence on the game. Mm-hmm. And I took great kind of enjoyment out of that. But what unfortunately then was happening was lots of areas of the games industry was being mismanaged or not being managed at all. Mm-hmm. And so coders and other people and artists were having to do work they didn't have to do. Things would be kind of falling out of phase. So I made the transition from programming and engineering over to production. And then I felt like I could have a greater benefit, because the thing that really kind of motivated me was seeing talented and skilled individuals be able to be the best at their craft. That's the thing that really excited me. And then very quickly on, I realized that people are far more complex than the most complex algorithm I'd ever studied. And then when you take more people, it becomes infinitely more complex. Mm-hmm. And that's now a life's journey for me, which is the idea of kind of teams and team management. Mm-hmm. Was and is such an exciting and amazing thing to be surrounded by people who have far more talent than me. I was a terrible coder and a terrible artist. I'm surrounded by all these people who are amazing and do this fantastic work. To be there and to be able to just be able to sit near them or hear those ideas or see them kind of take something, some crappy suggestion of mine and then turn it into an amazing thing. Really, I can't imagine a better job. So going from that world of engineering into production and then to a director, and now being very blessed of being a co-studio head now for the company, it really is a dream come true, because it allows me to surround myself with talented people and hide the fact that I have no talent at all.
That's
do you
awesome.
ever miss like coding or like wanting to go back?
I still do it on my weekend. I do a little bit of little coding, and now I have a 5-year-old son, so I can do little games with him.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's so good to hear.
Yeah, but it's a fantastic journey. I wouldn't change any of it, because when I first went to production, mm-hmm. one of the great strengths was, if back when I was a coder, the producer would come around and say, "Hey, you're doing that, that texture rasterizer. How long is that going to take?" "Oh, that'll be about 3 months' work." "Oh, okay, 3 months' work. It's only going to take a week." Right? But by the time you moved over to production, you could ask the question, "Hey, how long is this going to take?" And they'd say something and you go, "I know you're kidding." So that gave me a bit of a leg up in the production world, to be able to kind of call people on their BS early on.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Oh,
I love that.
I'm just giving you insight into my twisted and warped past.
I don't know. It's a beautiful journey where you see all that. Again, it comes from that place of passion, and you can see it both in the game and the way you promote the crap out of it now. It's awesome.
Oh man, it's to find something you love and to be able to do it, and I'm spoiled in that way. I'll be very honest about it. I'm actually spoiled in that way. Mm-hmm. You never work a day in your life. I've never worked a day in my life, because every day I come in and it's not only riveting and engaging, it's never the same day twice. Mm. And the talent that's around me just, I feel like I'm cheating every day, because all these people make these things true, and I don't lift a finger. They do all that stuff. That's why, you know, it's weird even coming on here and having my face out there, because really I'd like to be in the shadows and hide away.
The Shadow
Shadow
Man.
Man.
Yeah, there it is.
Mm.
If I had my way, I'd have all 300 people, using up this camera here, because they deserve all that fame, because those are the guys who make it.
Oh, damn. You got.
Jesus.
It's just beautiful. Damn.
I'm crying over here, guys.
Oh,
You can't see me, but
That's
I'm
just
crying.
beautiful. Oh.
We'll put a little teardrop animation over the space.
All right,
man.
let's go.
I know here's the thing. I know
love
it sounds cheesy, but that's how I feel about it.
Dude, that's awesome. Because we need that. We need a lot more of that. We've gotten way away from the toxicity that was Call of Duty. It's not gone, but like in that era, MW2 era, when things were getting really spicy out there, it's nice to see the care, both and the communications from the developers to the community, and that's so refreshing to hear.
Here's the thing I would say, if I could be a representative of the games industry for a second.
Please.
There's very few individuals I've met in any company,
Mm-hmm.
even the ones that I might have a right eye towards out there in the world,
Mm-hmm.
which are very few, but all of them want the same thing, which is all of them want to make a engaging and entertaining product that is enjoyed. There's never anyone that I've ever run into which is like, F these guys. It's always about like, I hope people see my work. I hope people enjoy my work.
From the developer point of view, right?
The developer point of view,
Okay.
it's always that. It's
Okay.
always that. And there's different kind of challenges, but there's and 9 times out of 10, developers are very, very humble and very appreciative of the kind of praise and the positive stuff. And the hard stuff is hard, right? But that's why people get into the games industry normally, is to create enjoyment and fun for people.
That's wonderful to hear. That's so good. I wish there's more of that, because I definitely have seen, and I have my issues with some of like what I see go on in the industry, especially when you hear terminologies like turning a $60 customer into a $200 or $250 customer. That's no longer about the experience, and that frustrates me. I get it from a business standpoint. You're a business. I get it. But I definitely see other companies, and this actually isn't referencing Call of Duty, in which I'm talking about too. It's a different game that I was very passionate about, and when you start hearing this, you're like, really? And you can tell the developers are just like, God, they're killing me. They're killing the game I'm trying to make.
Everyone wants to make kind of great games. Everyone wants to make great games. That's all they want to make. Be the biggest success or the biggest flop, right? You all just want to make a great game.
I can't imagine.
There's no ever any kind of world where you say, "Oh, let's make a half game." No one
Yeah,
ever
exactly. Here's an interesting question. Back to zombies on that topic, for some of the kids that are bored to death about all this beautiful inside stuff on the industry.
Sorry, everyone. I apologize.
Oh, is this?
They want the curtain pulled back.
Just,
they don't want to see
yeah, right.
Teacher reveal, shouldn't I, rather than text?
There it is.
There's that beautiful shirt.
Is there any wonder weapons you've concepted that haven't made it into zombies that you were like, God, like it would have been so good for this map that you can talk about that you're not going to do in a future one, but you were like, if only this wonder weapon got in the map. It was a cool idea, but just we couldn't do it.
You mean like the snapping Richtofen head?
The what?
Oh, is this? I think I've seen this before.
No, I have not heard of this.
I've sent this to you. I know you've seen
Okay,
this.
all right then. Well, I see a
I've
lot.
sent this to
There's
you.
there's so much stuff.
We've had this
I
conversation.
can't remember it all.
I think was it Mob of the Dead that I think somebody ripped it? I don't know, but I've seen this before.
Okay.
A render of it.
There's been different ideas. Very few, because usually wonder weapons take so much investment that it's very rare for them to be concept and then thrown away.
Yep.
Even if a wonder weapon is not working, we'll just play with the values until we're happy with it.
Okay.
Even if it didn't get to where we wanted it to go originally or wasn't hitting a certain vibe. But because it's, as I say, weapons are such a huge investment to make and animate and check all its consistency and so forth. It's very, very rare that they're just left on the side.
Fascinating.
Well, let's not get away from the Richtofen head though. Let's not try to dodge that. But so was that actually a wonder weapon that just didn't work out?
It was an idea that never made it onto the table. Yes, John.
Look at that smile. That's
Cause
amazing.
I can imagine it working like the skull of Nonstop Weed.
Mm.
But with Richtofen, that would have been freaking cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
I remember the
Yeah,
render now. I remember the head render. I thought, okay, I gotcha.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
gotcha.
and sometimes we'll like, and there has been examples of this, where
Hmm.
we'll prototype something or try something, and we'll accidentally leave it in the pack. We're actually trying to do a better job of working at this stuff now,
Hmm.
like well, the one which I will get blamed for the rest of my life
Oh
on
boy.
as being a troll for the community, which was the encrypted Shadows of Evil intro IGC. And that was not deliberate.
Uh-huh.
That was us testing out the encryption system that we were going to use at the end of Gorod,
Hmm.
because I was testing whether we could encrypt videos and see if people could get through them or not.
They did.
Unfortunately, that got left in the pack, and we've now got tools to now scan for files that aren't used. But that one unfortunately just went through the
Ah,
radar. So it was not a deliberate troll for the community. It was a test file we had that just happened to end up in the pack.
oh, well, that's
So when
a
you
shame.
make a map and you decide the wonder weapon that you're going to be in there, is it just an idea that you guys have at the moment, or is it something that you maybe plan a little beforehand, like to put maybe a shrink ray in Shangri-La? Is that just like an idea that somebody had at
It's
that time?
normally per map. So we normally
Mhm.
don't have a great deal of foresight in terms of wonder weapons. Normally, when you kind of come to them, unless it's story specific. So, for example, the staff.
Yeah.
Those were thought about earlier than the map was kind of created. Normally, the wonder weapon is specific to the map, and then the narrative will normally inform. It's one of two places. Either the narrative informs where it should be, let's say just to down Sapway,
Mhm.
or maybe it's a designer thing where they say a weapon that did this kind of thing would be great for this map because we're playing with elevation or doing this idea. If it could just do something like this, and then we'll kind of send that away and have that concept and return, and then we'll aesthetically dress it for the narrative, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
There's different routes through, so it's not always just one prescribed way each time.
Oh, that's great then. Because that, again, is the flavor and excitement of zombies. Every map is unique. One of the things my best friend in all the world loves to say is like, we like playing this map because the shrink ray's on the map. We love going to Shing because of that, and it's not in every other map. That kind of copy-paste, like the Thunder Gun starts showing up on all the maps, it starts to become an issue. Just like all the perks are in every single map, you start to be like, okay, well, you start to get fatigue from it. So,
Or sometimes when something comes back that you haven't seen in a long time,
yeah,
too.
that is exciting. When it's not...
Like maybe the Thunder Gun in Revelations. We haven't seen that since Ascension.
We were working with our agency that we work with to do kind of trailers and so forth.
Mhm.
And we got to, it was the Guard Pro one, right? And
Yeah.
they sent me through a first draft, several drafts in.
Mhm.
And it was like, we're missing something just for that final quarter of the video.
Mhm.
Like, let's do the pull where the PPSH kind of comes out just at that moment, right? That was one of those things that just kind of
Mhm.
hit. And I remember seeing all you guys.
Oh,
reacting.
God.
But it was one of those things where you're not going to get points for the newness of it, but you're going to get nostalgia points for it, and
Sure.
and it's thematically correct for the map and so forth, and so
Yeah, I don't always do videos breaking down trailers or pointing out like the cool things in trailers, but when I saw the PVSH, I had to make a video on it. I was like,
Oh.
this breaks my rules. This is a go.
And this thing, all the dev guys are like, you got to put it in. We got to get it done. Because when we do a weapon request into the weapon department, we have to think about what we're doing and how we're doing it.
Mhm.
And we're like, we got to put it in. We got to put it in. So they were just as excited to get it in, and they get it in block out first, which means it's like an untextured gun that just
Yep.
appears. Yep. And they were like, yeah. They're all just running around with this kind of grey weapon, just firing it. It didn't even have shape to it. They're like, it's the PPSA.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love hearing that passion, man. That's so great. There's multiple modes in Black Ops 2. You very much made a point in Black Ops 3 that you only wanted one definitive mode. In the future, though, who knows what that holds? I don't want you to tell me about anything in the future.
Sure.
But I want to put out there, because you mentioned it in your interview for Zombie Chronicles, about a variable that you can change about training. And I think there's a lot of people out there that would be very interested in a challenge type mode that where you start really exaggerating those trains, that you could choose to play a mode where training doesn't work. Might be interesting. Floating that out there.
I feel a second binder coming through.
Oh, are you kidding me?
All of
Are
these
you
ideas.
joking? And the thing is, narratively too, because I know you poked fun at me at when you met me last about like, what would you do here narratively in this what you had set up?
When you had that interview, I thought, here he comes. Okay, come on. Here we go.
I'm a reasonable person.
He's gonna come in with the big guns now. Okay.
He was all ready to grind you up beforehand. I remember. We were talking about it, I think, a week or so before. He's like, John, I need you to help me come up with good questions or whatever.
I'm seeing.
And he was like, I'm gonna prove to him why Moon should not have had a blown up.
I'm seeing like a Rocky montage with Reed,
There's a picture of you on a punching bag.
Eating meat and things. Yeah.
And that's a sketch now. Okie dokie.
Yeah, exactly. Do I get to do the intervention back to you now? Hey, Reed, come in. Come see
yes. Well,
let me talk about it.
The thing is, you completely did this. You do what you're so good at. You're like, have a seat, and I'm like, oh no, wait a minute. You changed everything on me because like I stated, I saw it so much as a script, a movie, a book, and you go, it's a comic. It's something more than. Way more ambitious than I ever expected from a studio, and just like, well, I can't argue this now. Like everything I gave you, it just like no shit. Like everything I suggested, that was a way to nice bow tie, and it's over. Zombies is over. As a studio, you go, nice job, jackass.
Well, here's the thing, right? That mentality and that that growth and kind of confronting these things. I think going forward into the future. That mentality is something that I hope the zombie community can kind of be comfortable with and trust in and settle in so that things in the future they can accept when it's presented in front.
In other words, we didn't learn our lesson in Origins. We didn't learn our lesson in Revelations, but maybe one day.
There's always kind of challenges. This, if the first kind of response is outrage or kind of cry, I usually ask people to hold for a second. If you try and just make split-second decisions, you normally find yourself with a bit of egg on your face. So and again, it's not out of a desire to kind of deliberately push buttons. It's out of, come with us. We're going to go on a journey. We're going to go do something. Come with us on it. There's a bit of faith involved in that, because we have to take risks and we have to kind of do things that, community's not always going to see eye to eye on.
But that's the love of it.
Hopefully over time, we're showing that we have the best interest of the community at heart and that we're trying to keep moving. But when you do new things and try different ideas, tell different stories, right? These things can cause very passionate reactions of people who are passionate about it. And I don't deny that, but I also ask people to be patient and also to invest and to give a bit of trust on those things.
Well, that's fair, but there's a balance. There's always a balance to be struck because if you keep doing like wait till next time, then it becomes.
His thing, and I'm not saying that's the same gag again, but it might be a different one.
That's fair. I mean, initially I was on board with Rev. I defended it. Why didn't it suck, right? And then all of a sudden, like 6-8 months later, I'm just sitting there. I'm just like, the narrative of not Monty was getting me so mad, and then. Of course, like a month before Zombie Chronicles, I'm like, you know what? Screw Revelations ending. And I never can just hold on that last bit. Then all of a sudden, here comes Jason, just like, let's just take off the shirt here and show you the timeline. Just like, oh great, yeah, he knew it again. But I love it. That's the whole game we play here, and it's the joy of this conversation that we have.
Yeah, it's the thing that. It's the thing that interests me, and it's such a delicate balance. And I'm new to this as well, right? I'm new to, the fact that I'm even on here, chatting. I'm normally behind several sheets of glass in a place. It's new to me as well. And so, making decisions about social media or kind of coming out and chatting about stuff and so forth is a new experience, and we're having to make decisions as a studio and as a game about where those lines are, where those boundaries. What is the best thing to service the fans?
Right.
And that is the first thing that I think of, and the last thing I think about is the decision we or I am making. Is it in service of the fans and in service of the mode? Because I take it as a great responsibility, not only on behalf of Treyarch, but on behalf of all the developers as well, that we're doing the right thing.
That's good to hear. That's really good to hear. And that's tough socially balancing it. We know one of your peers right now, we were going to talk about this too, has the other developers with zombies influenced Treyarch in any way, shape, or form. I mean, Lee Ross, he is very active, and that is quite the balance. Jimmy was just
He was nowhere to be
oh, Jimmy, and you're now striking this a balance between the two, it would seem. But it's tough when you open yourself up to that passion of the community, and I see things that disgust me and frustrate me to Lee Ross and what they're doing. It's a completely different world what they're producing in Infinite Warfare Zombies compared to what they're doing with Treyarch Zombies. But the community, it's tough for them to handle that social interaction, and sometimes it's just like.
I think what they've done is fantastic. I think what they've done is great. It's real fun gameplay. It's real fun taking the formula, playing with it, making it their own, making it have its own spirit and its own attitude. One of the reasons why I don't do the social media is I've got nothing to say. I'm quite a boring individual in general. I think it's fantastic that Lee Ross is doing that stuff and kind of engaging in that way. I wouldn't have enough things to talk about, unfortunately. So that's one of the reasons. But here's the thing: I think there's different formula. I don't think there's one thing to rule it all.
Right,
in the same way, there's a reason why there's not such a thing as this is how to make games. The book, because it's about the different people you've got and the different cultures and all this kind of fun stuff. So I don't think this is the right way, this is the wrong way. You've got to make decisions about what you've got and what you're trying to achieve. So that's, I know, for instance, I wouldn't be particularly good on social media. I won't be particularly good on doing that. And so I'm not going to frustrate the fans and take that step, because I feel like it would be more of a negative impact. And I also don't, personally, from my point of view, I'm not really, I'm not really interested in that kind of that part of the showmanship of it. I want to make sure that the community feels heard, and I want to make sure that they can get little insights into some of the behind the scenes stuff. But for me personally, I'm a little bit more distant from that way. And I know when I kind of told people in the zombie community, it was like, "Oh, Blundell, he never talks to the fans." And I'm like, okay, but if I did, wouldn't it just annoy the crap out of you? So. That's the balance the decision I've made. That could be right or wrong. We'll find out.
Well, from the content creator community, we definitely have to thank you for even doing what you're doing so far. This type of communication really breeds excitement from the game, DMing some of the guys, and for the most part, the community gets it, because we can reach such a wide audience, and there's also the business aspect of it, but we don't get communication with YouTube on things to actually talk to the people that love their game and us too. And it's not just this conversation where, we'll say good things. It's a true conversation. We want to make it the best experience possible. I think we can all say thank you for not only the Zombie Chronicles experience that we've had, but just being vocal and at least talking to us. Some developers terrified of that.
Here's the thing I would say, I remember there was a kind of conversation at one point where one YouTuber who will remain unnamed.
Don't worry about it.
Said to me, well, I'm sorry about that video I made about this thing to me. And I was like, you need to always make those videos.
Yeah.
You need to always be expressing how you feel about it. I think the reason why people tune into your channels and watch your stuff is because you're authentic. You will bash me and our guys just as hard as you will applaud us. And I think I would be very worried, and our guys would be very worried, if it was all very one-sided. And I think you wouldn't have the relationships you guys have if it wasn't for the fact that you call it as you see it.
Right.
If I felt like I had any sway over you guys and that you were all in my pocket, I would feel very disingenuous to the community, and I don't think that was the right attitude that we should be fostering. So, would I love everyone to have a balanced opinion and kind of look from the other side of the coin every so often? Yes, I would. But I always want you guys to be, if something's striking you a certain way, you feel passionate about something, or you don't like something, then you should be making that video, because that's why your audiences tune in and watch your videos, right?
Right. Absolutely. Change the moon round change. That sound sucks.
Yeah, don't say that.
I actually kind of like it. I'm gonna be honest.
I know. I'm just bossing. That's just one of the things that annoy the crap. Oh, actually, Shangri-La, when you go down the slide, that's something to bring up. I don't know, actually, if you patched that out already with the most recent one, but it was very choppy when you would go down the Shangri-La slide.
Let's not make this video where you go through all the negatives.
I'm not. Hey, I'm being honest with you.
Sure?
No. Just real quick.
Let's cut out all the thing I just said. Okay?
We planned it like this.
And,
we planned it
and now we're going to be
Now we're
live.
just gonna keep hitting it.
And now let's start again.
So there's a clock behind me that suddenly jumps as you edit the video.
By the way, there's a floating apple in Black Ops 1. You still haven't fixed it. This game is unplayable.
Oh my god, I love that stuff. Tell me about the decision to remake the loading screens inside the comics. I'm obviously you're gonna dodge a lot of this, but just why at all though? Why even touch those?
I thought it was a really interesting vehicle for storytelling,
Okay.
and so I was really I thought it was fascinating. I mean, we have a love for comics here, and I obviously have a love for comics,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought it was really fun to kind of play with something where there was so much narrative around a static image,
Mm-hmm.
and by changing that static image, you're essentially making a movie, but with two flat images.
No,
And I
movies are
thought that was
images.
kind of fascinating. The
Mhm.
idea that to understand the second image, you'd have to understand the first image and then the greater world around it, and then that allowed you to tell more story. But all you're presenting is two images. And if you took one away, the other one wouldn't make any more or less sense. Do you know what I mean?
He just enables me. This isn't good. Jason, I'm such a storyteller. He enables me
rabbit hole to dive down now.
so hard.
You know what I mean? Like it's
Oh, I love this so much.
So would you say that one can't make sense without the other, that they're
Yes.
interconnected in a way?
Yes, you have to delta them. To
So
get
it's
the
not just a
storytelling.
nod or paying homage.
No,
Oh, that,
Okay.
it's a delta thing. In the same way that, you know, let's say in Zetsubo we did the cipher where you have to take the two images together and lay them over, and then that's how you start to solve it, right? It was the idea that this is two separate images that only when you recognize the delta and understand the story significance can you tell a new story.
oh god.
Interesting.
This is getting back to like the Shattered Universe, where just like there's different fractures of you, but together it's still making a whole picture. There's
Yeah.
still so much more going on.
Yeah, it's like it's so much in like mathematics and so forth is about the change from one state to another state.
Mm-hmm.
And in the same way in kind of storytelling, you can also do the same thing. And I like the fact that that's two static images. So it's the least, there's no movement in it. But how you change the panels and what you replace in that panel, or what you're choosing to reflect or ignore, is also part of the story you're telling. But all you're using is two static images.
Son of a bitch. It's so good.
That made me sound like I just went up my own ass.
Oh, that's.
Oh, I'm getting the 10-minute warning.
Oh, all right.
Activision's going to be pulling me off at this point, right?
All right. Let's see if there's any one big hitter questions left. I just want to say the word Atlantis again, Jason. Just going to put that out there. Don't worry about it.
I captain.
As you
This
say,
light-
Atlantis, Jason gets
This light
pulled
is
under.
giving me a very hot specular here. This is highlighting my receiving color.
Great.
There's gonna be a Lex forehead comment coming.
Oh, here we go.
You just ruined the chat right there.
There it
Yeah,
goes.
You should have just never mentioned it.
Oh, sorry.
You know what?
See, this
Yeah.
is why I don't do these things. See, I'm a noob when it comes to.
Do you have anything you want to ask of us or any inputs about anything, Jason, while we're wrapping up right here? Just like, do you have any curiosity to dive into things that might help you make a better game?
Tons, but the problem is that I unfortunately can't ask them in this kind of forum. But
That's
yeah,
fine. That's fine.
You know, and that's why we'll spend time with our, you know, we have different designers and our QA guys. We have certain people that we don't talk to regularly, and then we talk to them in intense sessions,
Yep.
so we can get some of that undiluted, you know, vibe, right?
Mhm.
And we'll actually combine that with Treyarch QA and Activision QA, and Treyarch QA is playing it all the time, and then Activision QA plays it kind of sporadically. But we do that kind of stuff where we talk to them about it, and we have guys, you know, high round experts who get to the really high rounds, but we only have very few of them, so you know, that kind of fun stuff. But it allows us to try out ideas, because the problem is in development is you become development blind to stuff because you're playing it over and over again.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
we'll use different kind of groups who we isolate and then try out. So that's who we normally do. I would love to be able to talk to you about that stuff, but
Yeah, well, whatever.
I'm curious, Jason, are there any zombie maps that you come back and
Oh,
ever
yes,
play?
yes.
Or do you make a map and then step away from it? What's that like from your end?
It's I step away and try not to look at it, because if I do, it would be really painful.
I mean,
so-
that's like what they say with authors, where they never read their own books because the first thing they'll do is spot the typo.
Yeah, it's like so the majority of my career was doing campaigns and kind of long stories and 12, 15 level kind of mammoth beasts, and there's a phase in the development just as you kind of get to final, just as you kind of just before submission, a couple of months before submission, where essentially either as the executive producer or as the director, I just had to go away because there's actually no help whatsoever me being around, because all I see is all the things I need to change or add when actually a team needs to finish. We call it finishing. And what you do is you actually start sending your staff home. So you actually, at the end of a project from 300 or however big you get, you go all the way down to what looks like a small kind of 60-man team size, because that's the only way to truly finish something. Because the problem is if you have more people touching it, they'll all fix and fix and keep breaking and breaking. Right? In the same way, the last thing you want is the director or the executive producer hovering around, because all he sees is, oh, you can put that in. It takes 2 minutes. Go on, you can put that in. That'd be great. So in the same kind of mentality, once the map's done, I step away, and then I let our live ops team who do all the kind of watching you guys, looking for bugs, reading the Reddits, all that fun stuff. That just goes into an automatic system. Because back in the day, you'd have to do it, and it was excruciating because there wasn't huge infrastructure, and you'd have to read everything and go, hey, you need to fix that and fix that. It's great and painful on the fact that I just give it off to a system of highly trained people who then go and do that stuff, and I step away from it. That's a long way of saying, no, I don't. I walk away.
I totally get that. Me and John were talking about that before the call, and we're like, it's going to be one of the two extremes where it's like, I can't touch it. Just like I don't watch my own movies if you're like some filmmakers
I don't watch
do.
my own videos. That'd be weird.
Yeah.
You just see all the things you want to change. You just see all the lighting things you want to do. All the things you want to do. It's when you guys came over and we had you in the multimedia room, the big room.
Yep.
Those front seats, that's where I sit. Every Friday when we're doing like a campaign, we're doing a zombie thing, we review on that big screen. And towards the end of a major project, every Friday they're playing through every single level, and I'm basically just shouting at the screen like an old man. And there's senior producer, producers, and an associate producer sitting there taking all the notes, like this, and that's this, and that's it. And you're doing that all the time. Wow. All the time. And that session can last like 5 hours.
Oh, that's
6
amazing.
hours.
Exhausting, but wow.
And it's great, right? Because it's like, go, where's that thing? It's almost like a kitchen. It's got like a kitchen mentality, the speed you're going. Right? I want that in by the next build. Okay. By the time you get to the end, as you say, it's exhausting. You kind of just want to let it go and go, okay, I've got to step away. Because I could keep giving notes infinitum, like no problem. And that has taken me quite a bit of my career to learn that, to be able to kind of step away. So thanks for bringing it up.
Thanks, John. All right. One more question, and then we'll leave with the promotional information for Zombie Chronicles on Xbox and PC. I want to talk about the canonization of Dead Ops Arcade 1 and 2, iOS, and Zombies in Campaign. What are they all canon in the storyline? No. Thank you. But what?
So that opens up the second question. What is and isn't,
what? Yes,
of course, won't be answered.
Goodbye.
Is there? Any...
John's one step ahead of you there, Reed. Watch out.
Damn. That changes a lot of things. Wow. Because I was
makes it easier.
It does.
Not have
I appreciate
everything
that.
into the canon.
My God.
I remember one time when you started ranting to me about the zombies and campaign, you're like, well, this just changes everything. It writes it all.
It did. It really did. It's like adding another universe. And it's like, oh, dear Christ. How am I going to bullshit this one? How am I going to figure this out?
It's like putting a square peg in the round hole.
That's funny. I said the same thing.
I have my whiteboard. You have 300 people just sitting there shaking their heads like, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do this.
Like, here he goes again. Anyway, more like Craig, actually. Craig's sitting there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
we got such a kick out of seeing you guys at that COD XP. That was such fun.
Oh, it
Craig
was.
and I enjoyed it so much. We'd love to do that again.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Well, is there more to Dead Ops Arcade before we leave? I can't leave that. Is there anything more? It's just a fun game mode. Good. That's what I wanted to know. Okay, so thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy this. Jason, could you tell us a little bit about this thing called Zombie Chronicles?
What do you want to know?
His lips are sealed.
Well,
I'll tell you anything.
In the sense of where could Xbox and PC players find it? When's it coming out?
It's coming out on the 16th.
Ooh.
15th, sorry, 15th. I've been corrected there. Sorry, 15th.
There we go. Well, fantastic. So
Yeah.
if you guys want to see Zombie Chronicles, you can check that out on June 15th's release. I think it's still $30. You get all that. And how is it? Are you going to do 8 Days of the Undead again for the other systems or not?
I believe we are, yeah. I believe we're doing the same kind of structure. I think we're going to communicate a bit more clearly about exactly what that entails. But it's the idea, because we're things like having the and again, it's a communication issue rather than intent issue.
Mm-hmm.
Things like putting some more advantageous formulas in Newton's cookbook through that kind of period. That's what we've been doing, kind of making sure there's stuff every day through that period, and then other kind of like celebrationary stuff. But yes, we're going to kind of run the same thing.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on, Jason. It really meant a lot. It was awesome.
Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime you want to be on and
This
give
is
us
a dream,
help.
Jason. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
That's
man.
it. That's all I've got. I'm just an empty shell now. There's nothing more for me to touch.
Please, we could go on for days. Thank you guys so much for watching. Oh, yep.
By the way, Matt needs to go off and get back on Moon, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think that's what he's been doing.
Yeah, I'm already playing. We're at it.
Hard at work.
Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy this episode. Please subscribe to all my peers and their channels. You can check out more updates from Treyarch on their Twitter page and, of course, on their YouTube channel page. All that will be linked in the description down below. I hope you did enjoy this video, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.